Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Worcester. I am Nick Miller alongside Season 3 points winner Danny Jessup. How you doing, sir? Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. Doing good so far today.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier when I was talking to you in the hall, I haven't done a lot of deck techs with you, and that's because you've played 2 decks since I've known you. Mono Black Devotion, and then Abzan Control.
Yeah, Siege Rhino and Grey Merchant, gaining life, big creatures. Can't go wrong.
Things are changing. You've locked up the points invite to the Players' Championship, so you're not missing that this year.
Nope.
And you're playing something interesting here. Of course, you rode in a car with Jim Davis, a blue-white control master.
Yep.
You're playing something similar, but tell me how you came to this and putting down Siege Rhino.
So basically, Siege Rhino, still very good. Still would play the card if I wanted to play that deck, but I saw this list from, originally it spawned, I believe, from Yuki Ichikawa, and he was playing it online to a lot of success. And recently it's picked up a lot on the metagame and Moto. It won a Moto PTQ last weekend, and a lot of things about the deck that seemed interesting, and I liked a lot once I figured out all the little neat interactions in the deck.
Right. So you're a blue-white control deck. You've got 4 of Jace, and then your win condition 3 of Elspeth.
Yep.
First thing to note here, no Dragon Lord Ojutai, and very minimal win conditions.
Yeah, the deck definitely wants to just be as answer-heavy and counter-heavy as possible. And including Ojutai, you'd have to include cards like Valor Stance to beat some removal spells, because you don't want to use your good counters on removal spells. Like, a lot of times you even just cast Elspeth in this deck, and then, yeah, you plus the Hero's Downfall, you're fine with that. Like, the 3 tokens are generally going to be enough to start whittling them away, and you just counter any relevant spell after.
Removal spells, we see Banishing Light, it's good to see that again, but also Last Breath, a card that's kind of just gone off the radar, but here you have it, and there's a couple of interesting interactions you can do with Last Breath. Go ahead and talk about the power of that card.
Yeah, so the one downside to this deck versus blue-black is your removal spell is slightly weaker comparative to Bile-Blight and Hero's Downfall with Banishing Light and Last Breath. But Last Breath not only kills Hangerback Walker cleanly if it's less than 2, because it exiles it, but it's also very good if you can flip your Jace, use the +1 ability to give a creature -2/-0 till end of turn, and then Last Breath it at that point. Like, you can kill Siege Rhinos with make your guy a 2/5, then Last Breath it.
Yeah, that's where it really shines to me. I didn't really see that interaction on face value, but now once you flip a Jace, you have 4 Jaces, of course.
Yep.
You're going to be able to make that spell even better by killing a lot of bigger things, Tassiger, Siege Rhino, things of that nature. Of course, you got End Hostilities, just to answer to everything.
Yeah, great with the flip. You know, a lot of times you end up flipping Jace actually around turn 4 or 5. It's perfect to just, even if you end up having good spells in your hand, you can pitch the End Hostilities, flip your Jace, and flash it back right away, which is really nice.
Now, another interesting part, 4 of Ojutai's command. I saw this card popping up. It's seeing even more play in the Jeskai builds, 3 and 4 copies in that. It used to only be a fringe player, but I guess with Jace now, you just want all 4 copies.
Yeah, the Jeskai deck plays it particularly well because they get to also play Soulfire Grandmaster effectively. But this versus the blue-black deck, I've seen blue-black decks start moving Jace to the sideboard because they're afraid of removal spells killing their Jace and it turning dead removal spells on.
Right.
But with Ojutai's command, you get to play your Jace. If they kill it, you eventually can set up a turn where you either counter a spell and bring back a Jace, or draw a card, bring back a Jace, and you can then flip it right away. So bringing back a 2-mana cost card in this situation is very good with the Jace in particular.
Right. Counter Magic, Dissolve, Clash of Wills, another new card that's on, popping up a lot more.
Yep.
Bunch of dig through times, of course, and Jace's Ingenuity is just more card draw.
Yeah, the lists that I've found haven't had an Ingenuity to it, but the raw card count of Ingenuity, just being able to hold that or a counterspell open is really nice, comparative to Dig, which if you draw too many Digs, I mean, I'm still playing 4 because it's still the best card, especially to flashback with Jace, because you can flashback with the Delve cost in mind. So a lot of times you get to fill up your graveyard, flashback a Dig, and hold up 2 counterspells in the same turn. Whereas Jace's Ingenuity is a little slower, but at the same time, the raw card counter, just 3 cards to make sure you're ahead at all times, is really nice. So it seemed like a nice one-of card to also just have with a Jace in your deck. So.
All right, so we've seen Blue, Black, and Esper Dragons take off as the control decks kind of in the format.
Yep.
What's the pros and cons of Blue, White versus those decks?
I think the big pros are Elspeth, Sun's Champion. I think I've played a ton of Abzan Control. I think Elspeth has and will be the best win condition you could play in a control deck until it rotates, which is very soon, unfortunately. I've played that card a lot and I will miss it, but The other one is, I mean, having end hostilities as your wrath is also very nice because there are fringe things like Boon Satyr and Herald of Torment, which it kills. Also, just versus black, which only gets Languish or Crux of Fate. There are times where you actually have a dance where you can't actually kill everything. And the sideboard options for white are also very good, and I'm very happy with the white cards you get to play with the sideboard.
Right. Speaking of the sideboard, got a bunch of Irrational Clerics fight the mono reds.
Yep, it's best card against mono red. There were a lot of lists had a couple of Nyx Fleece Rams in that spot too, which I think is probably okay if you're afraid of. You could also bring it in the Abzan aggro matchup because it's just a 0/5. But Irrational Cleric and Oddeyes Command is just the best 1/2 punch you have against them.
Glare Heresy, probably one of the best sideboard cards for its time and standard.
Yeah,
You've seen
right.
it everywhere.
Yeah, right now with Abzan aggro being super popular, Fleece Mane Lion, Anafenza, Siege Rhino, it's just Terminate, and having a 2-mana spell that's also very easy to flash back with your Flip Jaces is very, very good in that matchup. Also killing, if they board into like Elspeths, there's just a lot of utility in the card right now. And it kills Manus Rider, it's very good to Jessup as well.
Celestial Flare, first thing I think when I see this card is kind of the heroic matchup. You know, you don't have Foul Tongue Invocation.
Yep.
But you bring up another good point. How do you beat Stormbreath Dragon?
Counter it or wrath it, but if not, the Celestial Flare is generally a very clean answer. With the Stormbreath Dragon deck primarily consisting of the red-black dragon deck now, they actually don't play very many creatures that are not a few Hangerback Walkers and then all dragons. So Celestial Flare is definitely one of my best cards in that matchup. So if I could just deal with their Hangerbacks, then the Celestial Flares are very, very good against their big hasty dragons.
Okay. You got some more counter magic, Disdainful Strokes and Negate.
Yep.
But the interesting thing here, 2 Mastery of the Unseen in the sideboard. We've seen this card in like the Bant Megamorph decks, back with Green-White Devotion at GP Miami.
Yep.
But now, it's just making 2/2s.
Yeah, it's just an alternate win condition against other control decks where your Elspeth might not be good enough, and a lot of people can't remove the enchantments you have, especially like a blue-black control deck.
Okay.
And it's just a card that eventually in the late game you're just going to start making 2 2/2s a turn, or 3 2/2s a turn when you're at 12 mana, and at that point, the only card that's going to do anything is maybe Saloomgar if they can get that blocking. But even then, most of blue-black decks only have the 1 dragon now. So they can't, like, Esper Dragons has a little bit cleaner of an answer. They can attack with 2 dragons, the -2/-2.
Sure.
But the blue-black decks don't really have a good answer to it.
All right, well, the deck looks great. It's good to see you kind of having some fun here after locking up your bid to the Players' Championship. Hopefully you do Jim Davis proud.
Yep.
But Danny, thanks for joining me here on the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all week long for the action here in Worcester.